it is officially time to be applying to medical schools. People should be picking the schools they're applying to because the AMCAS is opening up. And so I'm going to give you 5 reasons why you should apply to Yale Med, because I love this place and I want you to come to it. So let's do it. So the first reason you should apply to Yale Med is, of course, the fact that we have a very unique academic system, which means we have very few tests. And so if you're the type of person who is motivated mostly by learning for the sake of learning, you will really enjoy it here. It's one of the few places where, you have 1 or 2 big tests every 3 or 4 months. Those tests are taken on an iPad. Those tests are relatively low stakes. But the whole point is, when you come here, you should be motivated to learn for the sake of learning. And so because of that, we have very few tests, and that really takes the pressure off and really allows you to study the way you want. Like, for example, right now, I just spent 2 hours studying outside because it was a beautiful day and I felt very little pressure, but I just knew I had to get a certain amount of stuff done, and I could do it in the way that I wanted to do it without feeling pressured to be in the library cramming. And that's just one of the few luxuries of this place and one of the biggest reasons I love it so much. So definitely take advantage of that and apply to this school if you feel like you're the type of person that loves learning for the sake of learning. Reason number 2 you should apply to Yale is because we actually have, I would say, some of the most loving faculty I have ever met. And I don't know if I can say this about other schools because I've never been to another medical school, but the community here is very tight-knit. Your incoming class will only be about 104 people, which means you get to know not only your classmates really well, but the professors really well, because there's not that many of you. And the professors really take a vested interest in you if you show a desire to communicate and get to know them. So I'm on a first-name basis with multiple professors. I have a lot of mentors, and to this day, if I needed a letter of recommendation, I have people who would be more than willing to write me one. And that's something that I couldn't say when I was at Berkeley, because there was just so many students and so many professors that I'd actually be scrambling to get a letter of recommendation. But to this day, if I wanted a letter of recommendation, I could talk to, I have 3 or 4 doctors I would just list off the bat, who I could be like, hey, I just need a letter. Would you be able to write this for me? And they would say yes. And another thing is, I actually care about these people. Like, these are not just people who I look up to. These guys are mentors to me, and you'd be surprised, but when something big happens in my life, I feel this need to actually email them and tell them, this thing that happened in my life. And I haven't done that a lot with other professors, and I will just say the faculty here are just so loving and nurture an environment where you feel comfortable reaching out to them. And I don't know, I'm grateful for that. So that's number 2 why you should apply here. Third reason you should apply here, you specifically, is because you can have the best work-life balance ever. And I say this as someone who went to UC Berkeley, a school that is known to be very, very difficult in terms of just the amount of work. And so coming here, I was really afraid that I was going to be swamped because I knew med school was the hardest thing I would ever do. And you'd be surprised, but I am just not stressed at all, ever. I've had the most fun in med school that I think I could have ever asked of from a med school experience. And it's primarily because, as I said, the number 1 reason you should come here is that unique academic system. But the number 2 system is we just have very few requirements. And because of that, you actually can spend time on how you want to spend your time. And that means I could be doing research. Like, for example, this year, I've already been to like 4 research conferences where I got to present different research that I did in different labs. Those were not all one lab. And that's just because I wanted to spend my time doing that. Another reason is every Friday we go to play basketball. Why? Because I want to play basketball, and basketball is a big part of my life. Today, for example, today is a Sunday, right? I actually went on a 4-hour hike from like 10 to 2. Got Mexican food with friends afterwards, and then I came home and I was like, you know what? I actually want to study outside in the sun today, and I studied outside in the sun. And so that unique, relatively flexible environment may be present at other schools, but I will say at Yale, it's definitely like something we take a lot of pride in. Some people want to do research all the time. Some people want to be studying all the time. And if you want to do all of those things, you can. If you still want to be that person who's grinding, just studying their butt off 24/7, that's totally fine. You can do that here. But the luxury is also that you can spend your time the way you want it, whether that means getting a good work-life balance, sleeping 8 hours a day. I can say for a fact, majority of my classmates sleep 8 hours a day, which was not happening in undergrad. And so that's the third reason you should come here. This work-life balance is off the charts amazing. The 4th reason why you should come here is because this is going to sound superficial, man, but Yale is just Yale. And what I mean by that is it opens up a lot of doors and opportunities when you're here, not just because of the fact that you're a Yale medical student, but just because of the fact that you now are joining this huge and rich community of people who have come here before you. And specifically with Yale, it's one of the oldest medical schools in the nation. So there's a lot of resources and network that goes along with that. Like, for example, the other day, I wanted to talk to someone who was, interested in medicine, but also a really big, potentially big on social media. I wanted to just see if there were people like that out there. All I had to do was talk to one of my mentors. He hooked me up with another person, and I ended up talking to this person who is huge on social media and does a lot of writing. And the point was, all I needed to do was reach out. And because I reached out, I was able to get in connection with someone who is in this field, which I did not think would even be remotely possible. And this is not the first time that's happened. There have been other times where I've actually been reached out to from other people saying like, hey, I have this friend who might be really, really helpful in terms of what you want to do in your career. Do you want me to connect you to? And I'm like, absolutely. And so in that sense, that's where I think the Yale factor does come in, because there's a huge network here already that exists. And more important than that, if you as a Yale student wanted to reach out to someone, just saying that you were a student here actually works to your benefit. As much as you like it or hate it, it's just the fact at the end of the day. I used to email people and say I was a UC Berkeley undergrad, and I used to not get responses at all. But now I email people and I say I'm a Yale Med student, and I get responses. So maybe that's selection bias, but I personally do think that there is something to the name. And unfortunately, that's just the world we live in. Whether you like it or not, it is an implicit benefit of coming here. So that's the fourth reason. And the fifth and final reason why you should apply to Yale Medical School is because of the community here. And this is a very subtle difference that I want to point out. A lot of people always say that the reason you should go to a school is because you'll meet an amazing group of people, which again, I think is bullshit, because you can't control the people you're going to go to med school with. That class is not what you get a choice over. But what you do get to pick is the environment that you're going into. And the environment here at Yale is just absolutely astounding. I have made friends with the faculty. I have made friends with the administration. I have made friends with, the people that work at the cafeteria, everything. The entire community here is one of love, acceptance. We really do care for each other. There's a lot of self-care involved. You should watch the video I've made earlier about why I love Yale so much. And one of the things I stay there is I ruptured my Achilles tendon in like the second or third week of medical school. And pretty much that was a horrific experience, but the support that I got here was astounding. And so all of that together is what really makes this school different. And I think another thing is, at Yale, you just should take the risk and apply. I think a lot of people think that the numbers are really crazy, everything is really crazy, but I've had people who have gotten into Yale just because they know and understand what Yale is as an institution, and if they resonate with the mission of the med school, you'd be surprised, but you could still get in despite not having all the qualifications that you might think you need to have, which by the way, there aren't that many, a lot of people think that you need to be amazing, you need to be a genius. Not true at all, because I'm here. I defy all of those facts. So really just go ahead and take that chance to apply, because I think this is a novel place. I think you would really like it here if you fell in line with those reasons I already mentioned, which included, one, the work-life balance. No, work-life balance maybe was number 2 or 3, but the academic environment, the work-life balance, the fact that you're gonna know doctors on a first-name basis who really do care and will be there for you if you reach out to them. The community here that exists already is beyond astounding. And so all of those reasons, please just consider it. Put it as a school on your list. Apply. Do the secondary. If you have questions about it, ask me, but I really do think this is a novel place. Do your research about it, but I think you should apply, because it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. It's probably one of the least stressful med schools in the country, and I say that without a doubt, because I've been never stressed here, and I'm a guy who stresses a lot. It's one of the least stressful in the country. It's allowed me to explore my niche. It's allowed me to maintain my YouTube channel. It's allowed me to do the things that I love, including research, including YouTube, including reaching out to friends and just meditating, something like that, which I have been able to do. I don't think I'd be able to do at other schools. So go ahead, apply to Yale. Hopefully you found this video helpful. It was very informal. I did it while I'm vlogging outside. It's a beautiful day in New Haven. But yeah, that's that. Thanks you guys for watching this video. If you liked it, like the video, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.